Hi, this is my review of the Dogman Drummer that comes included in the Witchlands Dogman line. This is a figure that you can use in the Flintloque fantasy skirmish game of Napoleonic warfare. I'm going to put a lot of links in the description below, featuring reviews and other things related to Flintloque that I have brought out in the past. I recommend that you check those out if you are not familiar with the Flintloque game. In this review, I am also going to talk about strategies and some basic tactics. Now let's take a look at the quality of the figure. Here I'm going to show you some images of the figure without paint. You can see that the details are easy to appreciate and the cleanup was minimal. There weren't any major mold lines. The figure was quite clean. Now, I'm going to show you images of how the figure is presented in the alternative Armies website. And now I'm going to show you images of how the miniature ended up after I painted it. Now let's talk about some basic strategies and tactics. When you are creating your Dogman Drummer for your section, you have to consider that this musician is going to focus completely on playing his instrument, beating his drum, to give the other troopers in the section that bonus, so that they can activate despite taking enemy fire and such. So you want to keep this particular figure outside of combat as much as possible. So the dogmatic, pragmatic, national characteristic isn't as necessary, as you will be keeping this musician behind your troopers, trying to shield him from enemy fire and melee combat. So I wouldn't consider it necessary to take a lot of dogmen in your section, because the initiative bonus provided isn't as necessary as, for example, when you're going to use a particular trooper to go into melee or to get in the perfect position. This Dogman Drummer is going to stay behind just within distance, so that the effect of his drum will give that added bonus during the checks. However, when it comes to the Dogman skills and traits, I think there are some very interesting options. Big Bark, the skill of Big Bark should be considered not exactly optimal, because it's going to give you a bonus in melee and you want to keep your Dogman Drummer outside of melee. Fleet Color could be an interesting choice, because it's basically giving you an additional attack, a free attack, as you shoot out or project your cloud of fleas, but this only works with mortal enemies. However, because it is a ranged attack with somewhat decent range, it could be considered as an emergency choice or a last resource if the enemy gets too close to your Dogman Drummer. Now when it comes to traits, Boneyard, I wouldn't take it, because you require to be quite close to your enemies to attack them with the Boneyard trait, and it only works against undead, so it's not a good choice. Dognose, I would consider it a good choice, because that way you will be able to survive, or you will have a better chance of surviving even if you are taken down during that particular combat or encounter. Dognose, basically, as you may remember from my other video, when I reviewed the Dogman with pistol and sword, it allows you to smell your way back to your section. That is, when you were supposedly missing in action, you were not killed, you were just lost, and your Dognose helped you return to your section. And when it comes to flaws, I would definitely avoid taking the werewolf antagonist flaw, because if you have werewolves in your section, because you are a drummer, you would need to be at somewhat close distance. That could represent an obstacle. If you get too close to your werewolf allies, your Dogman could enter into this sort of like a frenzy or rage and start attacking your own units. But the Dim Dog flaw is a great choice in my opinion. This choice actually makes you quite bad at melee, and you are so distracted that you cannot use firearms. However, you become quite quick at helping another figure reload its weapon. So this represents that stereotype of a dog running to catch, that is catching the ball and returning it. In this way you basically retrieve ammunition and you load it quite quickly. So this is great for an emergency situation as well. Maybe you are keeping this Dogman Drummer quite close to, for example, an ogre armed with a canonderboss. Maybe the enemy is getting too close for comfort. You could get your drummer in base contact with your ogre, and with the help of the dog drummer, if you have taken the dim dog flaw, you could shoot every turn. Normally, the ogre using a canonderboss would need to spend 2 turns reloading, but with the dim dog flaw, you would be able to shoot every turn. So this is a great flaw to take. Even if you're not using an ogre with a canonderboss, there could be some emergency situations when you want to reload your flintlock as quickly as possible, and this flaw will give you that advantage. So it's a flaw that, if used wisely, it actually becomes a positive thing. Just keep your drummer outside of melee, of course, and don't count on your drummer using a pistol or a musket to save you. Now, when it comes to some general tactics on the field, as I was saying, it's quite simple. Keep your dog away from the enemy. It's a good advantage that this dog isn't carrying both the standard and the instrument, because otherwise the enemy could focus completely on taking down this Dogman Drummer, and all of your bonuses in the different checks would be eliminated with the dog. However, you have your standard bearer in some other position and this dog away from the standard bearer, this could present a bit of a difficult choice for your enemy. Who is he supposed to take down? And because the Dogman Drummer has some decent speed, not as fast as an elf, but faster than a dwarf, you can position him quite efficiently close to your troopers and with enough distance or space of convenience to move away if the enemy starts to focus their fire on you, or if they start to get too close with an intent to get you into melee. And because the Dogman Drummer is quite affordable points wise, in points matches you could use the rest of the points to better equip other troopers that are going to be in melee or are going to be focusing at ranged attacks. Definitely the Dogman Drummer is a good choice to take for any scenario, and the miniature looks great too. So just like in my other review of the Dogman armed with sword and pistol, I recommend that you get your Witchlands Dogman line. And remember, if you haven't seen my other Flintlock reviews, all of the links are in the description below. Well, thanks for watching this review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. See you later.